She slammed the notice on my front door like she owned the whole street. "You can't park that truck here," she said, voice sharp like she was reading a law book. I just looked at her. Jeans still dusty from work, hands tired, patience thin. "Ma'am," I said, calm but firm, "this is my driveway." "My land," she smirked. "Not anymore. The HOA says you're in violation. I didn't even sign up for any HOA. I bought the land 5 years ago, free and clear." But this woman, Karen, had recently become the community chairperson and suddenly decided she ran the block. She wore a fake badge around her neck, probably printed off her laptop, and walked like she was patrolling a kingdom. When I didn't move my truck, she pulled out her phone and said, "Then I'm calling the cops." I thought she was bluffing, but 10 minutes later, red and blue lights reflected off my porch. My stomach dropped. The neighbors peeked from behind their curtains. It felt humiliating, like I was some criminal on my own property. Karen pointed at me before the cops even got out. "That's him. He's refusing HOA compliance." I took a slow breath. My daughter was watching from the window, scared. I couldn't let this woman win. I kept my hands down, spoke steady. "Officer, before you say anything, I think you'll want to see my deed." The taller cop frowned. "We got a call about a disturbance," Karen interrupted, waving a fake-looking document. "He's violating HOA Code 17B. The board has authority to remove him." That's when the other officer's radio crackled. "Unit 7, be advised," property owner confirmed as... He stopped mid-sentence and looked straight at me. His expression changed fast, almost nervous. Karen noticed. What's going on?" I gave a small half-smile. "Maybe you should have checked who actually owns this place before calling the cops." Her face froze. Something in her eyes said she just realized she might have picked the wrong guy. Karen's voice cracked a little as she tried to keep her fake authority alive. "Officer, don't listen to him. He's lying." "He's been ignoring HOA letters for months." The cop gave her a hard look. "Ma'am, we ran the record. This land isn't under any active HOA jurisdiction. It was removed 3 years ago after a legal dispute." Karen blinked fast, her lips trembling. "That can't be right. I'm the head of..." I cut in, slow and calm. "You're the head of a neighborhood Facebook group, not the law." A few neighbors had gathered now, whispering from across the street. You could feel the shift. The same people who were scared of her yesterday were now watching her fall apart. But she wasn't done. Karen stepped closer, her voice low but shaking with anger. "You think you're smart, huh? You'll regret embarrassing me." I didn't respond, just stared, quiet. That silence made her angrier. She stormed to her car, slammed the door, and screeched off. That night, my security cameras caught her sneaking back. Flashlight in one hand, papers in the other. She taped another notice to my door, and this one even bolder. Eviction notice. HOA authorized. My blood boiled, but I didn't rip it down. I smiled instead. Because now, I had proof. The next morning, I walked into my office. Clean suit, badge on my belt, and the city emblem stitched across my jacket. My coworkers nodded as I passed. "Morning, Chief," one said. Yeah, I wasn't just some guy who owned a house. I was the head of the city's housing compliance division, the person who actually had authority over HOAs. Karen had no idea. By noon, my phone buzzed with an anonymous complaint. Someone had reported a property violating multiple HOA codes. The address? My own. Karen was doubling down. I almost laughed. It was bold, I'll give her that. But she didn't realize her complaint landed right on my desk. Instead of deleting it, I opened a case file officially. My name went on top of the report, and I forwarded it straight to the city's legal review team. If she wanted a fight, she was getting one. By the book. That evening, I drove by her house. It looked like a shrine of fake authority. Signs about quiet hours, approved mailbox types, even lawn color guidelines. The irony? Half her property wasn't even up to basic code. Broken gutters, illegal extension in the back, no city permits. As I stood there taking pictures for the file, she spotted me. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled, stepping off her porch in slippers. "Just checking a few records," I said calmly, snapping another photo. "You can't do that. I'll have you banned from this neighborhood." I tilted my head. "You already tried that." She stopped, glaring, then pulled out her phone again. "I'm calling the police," I sighed quietly. "Go ahead." When the cops showed up this time, I was ready. I handed them my badge and city ID before she could speak. Her face went pale as the officer read it out loud. "Karen, this man's your HOA compliance director. She froze. What? I stepped closer, voice low. You called the cops on the guy who approves your HOA funding. You've been posting fake legal notices and impersonating an official. That's a felony, Karen. She tried to laugh it off, but her hands were shaking. You're bluffing. I smiled faintly. You'll find out tomorrow. The next morning, a city inspector arrived at Karen's house with a full team. I stayed back, watching from my driveway. Cameras rolling. Neighbors gathering. The air was thick with anticipation. Karen opened the door, looking smug at first, like she could charm her way out. I don't see why. The inspector cut her off. Ma'am, we have multiple violations. Unpermitted construction, illegal signage, and falsified HOA notices. You are under investigation for impersonating a city official. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came. From across the street, Mrs. Thompson whispered to another neighbor, I can't believe she tried this, after everything she said about our driveway disputes. Karen's fake confidence evaporated. She tried to storm off, but one of the inspectors blocked her path. Cameras caught every step, every panicked glance. Even her phone calls to friends in authority went unanswered. I stayed quiet, letting the scene unfold. Then, almost casually, I walked over. Karen, I gave you a warning yesterday. You ignored it. She froze again, lips trembling. I can fix this. I shook my head slowly. No, you made this choice. By late afternoon, the inspectors had cataloged every violation. Notices were posted, fines issued, and a criminal report filed for her impersonation. Karen's empire of fake authority was gone. Overnight. As she was escorted away by city officials, the neighbors erupted in whispered applause. Little kids peeked out from behind fences. Even the mailman smiled at me as I walked past. And in that moment I realized how thin her power always was. She'd thrived on fear and lies, but truth has a way of catching up. A few days later, I received dozens of messages from neighbors I'd never met, stories of Karen's HOA reign of terror. One family had been threatened over a swing set. Another had fines for painting their house the wrong shade of blue. Every story made my blood boil, but also gave me leverage. I called a neighborhood meeting at the local community center. Word spread fast. The room was packed. Karen had always presented herself as untouchable, but now, she was the topic of whispers, not commands. I started showing the evidence, the fake notices, security footage of her trespassing, city inspection reports. Gasps filled the room. She had thought fear would protect her, but public truth was unstoppable. Then came the kicker. A local news reporter had caught wind of the case and arrived mid-meeting. Cameras rolled as I spoke. This isn't just about me. It's about anyone who's had their rights threatened by someone abusing a position they never earned. Karen, who had somehow managed to sneak in, froze when the cameras pointed at her. The reporter asked, Do you have any comment on the accusations? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not a single word. The neighbors stared. The children whispered. Her fake authority crumbled under the weight of every camera click and notebook scribble. By the end of the meeting, she was publicly exposed, humiliated in front of the very people she tried to control. I had never raised my voice, never broken a rule, but justice felt sweeter than any victory I'd imagined. And just when everyone thought it was over, my phone buzzed with a new email from the city. Karen had tried to appeal her fines using forged documents. That would be the final nail in her coffin. Karen's desperation grew fast. That night, I noticed her circling my house in a beat-up SUV, headlights flashing. She wasn't subtle. Neighbors noticed too and called in reports of suspicious behavior. But this time I didn't just watch. I documented everything. The next morning, she sent a frantic email to my office claiming I had intimidated her and demanded an emergency meeting. I forwarded it to the legal team with a note. Please verify authenticity again. By mid-afternoon, city investigators confirmed what I already knew. Her emails were forged, her claims baseless, and her threats criminal. Meanwhile, my team compiled every video clip. Every fake notice, every failed attempt she'd made to manipulate the system. Karen thought she could pull a last-minute trick, appeal her fines, scare the neighbors, even accuse me of wrongdoing. Instead, every attempt was documented and turned against her. When she showed up at the city office demanding an audience, the receptionist calmly called security. She walked in thinking she still held power, She walked out handcuffed, facing charges for forgery, harassment, and impersonating an official. The twist? A few reporters who had followed her antics the previous week arrived just in time to capture the moment. The story went viral. HOA queen falls after targeting property owner, turns out he's the boss. Neighbors cheered. Kids waved from fences. Even the local coffee shop barista laughed, shaking her head. Karen's empire of fear had completely collapsed, and she hadn't even realized she'd been playing into my hands the whole time. With Karen finally out of the picture, it was time to restore order and teach a lesson in accountability. I coordinated with the city to remove all her fake HOA signs, reverse unjust fines on neighbors, and clear any marks she had left on property records. Every notice she had posted went into the trash where it belonged. I even invited the community to a small gathering in my driveway. Neighbors brought snacks, kids ran around freely, and the tension that had hung over the street for months finally lifted. I addressed everyone calmly. Your rights matter. Your property matters, and no one can take that away with fake authority. Karen had tried to humiliate people, scare families, and control lives. But now, she was the one who faced embarrassment and consequences. Videos of her missteps paired with official statements were made public legally. The city ensured she could no longer hold any position of influence. The most satisfying moment came when I received a letter in the mail. Karen had been officially removed from all HOA positions, fined and barred from practicing any compliance work without certification. I smiled as I read it aloud to the neighbors. The look on their faces was priceless. Relief, triumph, and a newfound confidence that no bully could ever hold them hostage again. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to break rules. Justice had been served cleanly and firmly, and the community finally felt safe. Weeks later, life returned to normal, but the neighborhood felt different. Lighter, safer, proud. Kids rode bikes without fear. Neighbors talked openly over fences, and the air no longer carried the weight of Karen's threats. Every time I walked past my driveway, I saw my daughter smiling at the flowers she planted, and I felt a deep sense of pride. One afternoon, a reporter asked me, "Did you ever think this would get so intense?" I shook my head, smiling. I didn't fight for my land or my family just to let someone bully us. This is about respect, rights, and standing up when it matters. Even months later, the story inspired other communities. People shared the videos, the proof, and my calm handling of the situation. Karen's fall became a cautionary tale. No matter how loud someone shouts or how fake their authority looks, truth and justice always win. As I sat on my porch that evening, American flag waving gently in the breeze, I realized this wasn't just about a driveway or HOA rules. It was about freedom, the right to live safely without fear on your own land. And for the first time in months, I felt completely at peace, because in the end, the truth always has power, and justice, when served, is unstoppable.